French lawmakers set to oust Prime Minister Barnier in a historic no-confidence vote. And King Charles hosts a lavish state banquet for Qatar Emir, hails Qatar's effort for a Gaza ceasefire. Human tissue samples sent to International Space Station in a bid to reveal secrets of aging in space.
NASA's SpaceX 31st commercial mission.
And washed up detritus from Valencia floods put Albufera wetland in jeopardy. And our top story this hour comes from south of Korea. South Korea's president shocked the country on Tuesday night when he declared the martial law. The decision came out of the blue in Asia's fourth largest democracy. Yoon Suk Yeol, the South Korean president, announced the drastic decision in a late-night television broadcast mentioning anti-state forces and the threat from North Korea. But it soon became clear that it was not just the external threats but his own desperate bid to hold on to power. The move shocked South Koreans, with Yoon calling in the military, which released a decree banning protests and activity by parliament as well as political parties, and placing the media under government control.
It was an experience that I've only seen in movies, and I realized how much more serious it is than I had imagined. The current economic condition is difficult, and the fact that the president is causing such anxiety among residents makes the situation so much worse. I'm deeply disturbed by this kind of situation, and I'm very concerned about the future of the country.
Last night, I happened to wake up from my sleep and came across the news. At first, I was scared and very confused. I kept thinking, what is going on? Is this something that could actually happen in this era? I couldn't sleep until the martial law was lifted because I was so frightened.
I only knew that martial law was declared for some reason, but it ended so uneventfully that the reason felt meaningless. It just felt a bit strange to me.
And the declaration prompted thousands of people to gather at the parliament in protest, and the opposition lawmakers rushed in to push through an emergency vote to remove the measure. Out of the 190 of the National Assembly's 300 members defied the police as well as the military cordons to vote against the declaration. Defeated, Yoon emerged a few hours later to accept the parliament's vote and lifted the martial law order.
국회의 계엄 해제 요구가 있어
South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol said on Wednesday he would lift a martial law declaration he had imposed just hours earlier. It comes after a standoff with Parliament, which rejected his attempt to ban political activity and censor the media. Earlier, South Korean soldiers entered the parliament building through smashed windows, apparently tasked with imposing martial law. Inside, furniture was used to barricade the entrance, and doors were broken. Police scuffled with protesters outside as helicopters monitored the situation from the air. The move by President Yoon stunned observers around the world, including the director of the George Washington University Institute for Korean Studies, Celeste Arrington.
This was pretty shocking and seemed to be a sort of somewhat extreme move. I think he is an inexperienced politician. He never held political office before and has shown signs over the last months of being increasingly frustrated with the political logjam.
The White House said on Tuesday it was relieved that Yoon reversed course. Yoon declared martial law on Tuesday night to thwart what he called anti-state forces among his opponents. But outraged lawmakers rejected the decree in South Korea's biggest political crisis in decades. Lifting martial law was then approved by the cabinet early on Wednesday, according to Yonhap news agency. Under South Korean law, the president must immediately lift martial law if parliament demands it by a majority vote.
And the opposition Democratic Party has moved in to impeach Yoon now. Parliament will have to vote by Saturday on whether to do it. And for impeachment to succeed, it would require support from more than two-thirds of the 300-member National Assembly, that is, at least 200 votes. Now remember, Yoon's party has 108 seats in the 300-member legislature, and if Yoon resigns or is removed from the office, Prime Minister Han Duck-seo will fill in as the leader until a new election is held within 60 days. Meanwhile, Seoul appeared largely normal on Wednesday with the usual rush hour traffic in trains and on streets. So what really happens to the fate of South Korean president? We will be discussing all of that. Let's quickly listen into some reactions that have poured in.
계엄을 해제한다 해도
Even if martial law is lifted, he cannot avoid treason charges. It was clearly revealed to the entire nation that President Yoon could no longer run the country normally. He should step down, resign immediately. This is the mandate of the people.
And that's the leader of the Democratic Party, the main opposition party in South Korea. So let's quickly talk about what's next as far as South Korea is concerned, the president of South Korea is concerned. Joining us is Dr. Sanjay Kumar, senior journalist, the Korean Herald. Also with us on the show is retired Lieutenant General Rameshwar Roy. Gentlemen, thank you very much for taking time out. I want to come to you, Dr. Sanjay. Quickly run our viewers through what really transpired, because there's a big confusion stemming as to what the president actually said. He said anti-state elements are working against the government. Who was he referring to?
We have to first understand the background underlying before this discussion on martial law. Actually, it was declared not just once in a day. We have to understand the psychological pressure that President Yoon Suk Yeol was going through. Many of the bills he was trying to pass it, he was not able to do this. Then he was also stuck, and he was disappointed with the demands to investigate the First Lady, his wife, Kim Gon-hee. So he was very disappointed with these two reasons already. If you see his ratings were like below 18, like 17%. It went up to 70%. So he was already going through these disappointments, but I see the immediate cause to be the budget allocation, budget proposal that was being disturbed, and according to President, by the opposition parties. So this has created a lot of disappointments to President Yoon, and which led to decide in a very hasty way. Here the observers are also saying that the defense minister, he also advised him in a very hasty way, and things turned in a very dismantled manner. Yeah.
Okay. Lieutenant General Roy, to put this into perspective, obviously Yoon was feeling pressured. He was elected in May of 2022. Since April this year, when the opposition really took over the National Assembly, he was a lame duck president. He wasn't able to pass bills. He wasn't able to get his policies pushed through. His budget was restricted, and as a result of which, he seemed to have taken this step. But, however, with this step being taken in a country which is the fourth largest democracy in Asia, a largely peaceful country, hasn't seen president's rule or an emergency in the last 50 years, Yoon will have a lot to lose as far as his legacy is concerned.
You see, the fact of the matter is, as we understand, that this part of the globe in Southeast Asia, Japan and South Korea are the best models of running democracy. And that too so efficiently and so successfully that they have really brought their nations, Japan as well as South Korea, to be very fair to say that like economic powerhouse. Now, as regards these policies and such like things are concerned, if you are able to convince the House, if you are able to convince the people, that these policies are going to do good to them, there is no way that you will not be able to pass those policies. The very fact is that these are very vibrant democracies, and they have given the best of the example how a nation should be governed, despite the fact that in recent times, many democracies in the world have been under threat as regards their governance models are concerned. So here, in fact, you can see it for yourself that, just to say that by the President Yoon, that, he was fearing pressure, or he was having security threats from the people who are sympathetic to North Korean regime. I do not think that just by saying it, he can prove any point, because declaration of a martial law is something very huge. And nobody can know better than South Korea, which had been under that kind of a dispensation till 94. In April 94, then they adopted this democratic form of government.
Right.
So for him to just say it and then come out with such a harsh thing as martial law, it was absolutely, anybody would say on the surface, that it was bound to fail as quickly as it was brought out. And the result is in front of everyone, that within 6 hours, he had to reverse this decision. And this also gives a lesson to many other nations in the world, that, in case you wish to stay in power, you can only stay in power if you go by the mandate of the people who have chosen you as leaders. You can't trample over the mandate by having a kind of a law being imposed just to protect yourself. And that is not going to work anywhere. And I think this lesson must be, as far as the other countries are concerned, this lesson must be learned pretty well. And we can see that now, whatever be the outcome, this gentleman is going to be impeached. I do not think he has now mandate to really rule his nation.
It does look like that's going to be the way forward. But the leader of the Democratic Party of Korea is also saying that Yoon will try to impose martial law again by addressing his shortcomings after he has failed once. Will he be allowed? Let's take a quick look.
한 번 실패했기 때문에 부족한 점을 채워서 다시 시도할 것입니다. 그럴 때 우리 국민들께서, 그리고 우리 더불어민주당이, 우리 국회의원들이 나서서 반드시 싸워 이길 것입니다.
Dr. Sanjay Kumar, apart from the obvious impeachment, what is the political debacle we are looking at as far as the party is concerned, Yoon's party is concerned, and his own political fortunes? Because an impeachment process is likely to go through on Saturday. We'll know whether they'll, the opposition will have the majority, and we'll take that question, of course, from Lieutenant General as well. But I want to understand from you, as far as Yoon's legacy is concerned, it does look like that is tarnished. All of the West allies of South Korea are also stunned. All of South Korea's allies in Asia are stunned. This came out of the blue. This was unexpected. But this is definitely going to dent Yoon's legacy for a long time to come.
Well, Yoon is very isolated right now, not only domestically but also from geopolitical perspective. If you see, he is feeling very isolated, and not only the political circles, even the people in Korea have decided to go against him. But I would slightly disagree with this fact that definitely he is going to be impeached, and I have this ground because if many political analysts here and Korean people have another question in their mind, is that if not Yoon, then who? We have two leaders, Han Dong-yoon, who is in the ruling party, but even among the ruling party, people look divided on his name. And on the other side, the gentleman that you were showcasing right now, Lee Jae-myung from the opposition party, although he mentioned that definitely once again martial law may be imposed, many Korean people do not agree with that. People are not ready to accept such kind of martial law in near future as well. But there is a chaos over the next leadership. Okay. And as you said, yes, he is very isolated right now, domestically and geopolitically. So the question remains right now. I think it is up to the Supreme Court of Korea to decide in next 2-3 days. Especially tomorrow, they are going to look into it, and based on that, we can make any conclusions. Yes.
All right. So as the process stands, it does look like the lawmakers are going to vote in if there is a majority voting for impeachment, which is 2/3 of the House, coming down to 200 number as a mark, post which the courts are going to look at it. But so far as South Korean lawmakers are concerned, they have called on President Yoon Suk Yeol to resign or face impeachment after he declared the martial law, only to reverse it 6 hours later, triggering a political crisis in Asia's fourth largest economy.
6 South Korean opposition parties submitted bills of impeachment for President Yoon Suk Yeol on Wednesday. That came after Yoon's sudden move imposing martial law the night before. In an address, he had claimed there were anti-state forces among his opponents. But after Parliament unanimously rejected his decree, hours later Yoon backed down. A vote on his impeachment is expected within the coming days. It would pass in South Korea's National Assembly if 2/3 of lawmakers support the bill, and that would then lead to a trial held by South Korea's Constitutional Court. On Wednesday morning, the country's National Assembly building bore scars of violence the night before, boxes, chairs piled up as barricades. Security camera footage released Wednesday gave a better view of events the night before. Soldiers tasked with imposing martial law landing on the sports pitch near Parliament before smashing the building's windows and clashing with parliamentary aides. It all marks South Korea's biggest political crisis in decades, and the first time martial law has been declared since 1980, before it became a democracy. Yoon, a career prosecutor, had been very unpopular with the South Korean public. He's faced discontent over his economic policy, scandals, and other controversies. Should Yoon resign or be removed from office, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo would fill in as leader until a new election is held.
All right, Lieutenant General Roy, it does look like President doesn't have many a choice right now. Either he's going to be impeached, or at least the process will go through. The impeachment may not go through. What are the chances of him being impeached right now? We were looking at that map on our screens of the South Korean Parliament, where we have at least 300 seats in the Parliament, in the National Assembly, of which 200 votes have to come in for the president to be impeached. How can and how might the process unfold, in your opinion?
You see, if we go by the news that out of those 300, he requires 200 votes to be impeached. 190 of those lawmakers had defied the martial law, and they had voted against this imposition of martial law. If we go by those figures, and if those figures are as authentic as they have been given, then just about 10 more people are required, 10 more members are required to for his impeachment, and therefore that appears very likely that he would get impeached. Now, other 2 points needs to be considered. First is that the South Korea is, in a matter of speaking, a frontline state of United States. In United States, we are having President Trump taking over the leadership next month. And when we talk of leadership, leadership has got three vertices of a triangle. One is the group, second is a situation, and third is the leader. So to say that if not he, then who? This is quite irrelevant, because the leaders are thrown up by a group and the situation the way it is created. Here itself, if we see, Yoon would have not thought that his martial law would be opposed in such a manner that he had to reverse the decision within 6 hours. Why? Because the particular group that decided were those lawmakers who said no way you can impose martial law. And the situation was the public support which came along with it. So these two things decided that a leader emerged to make sure that the martial law diktat is reversed. So therefore, my feeling is that if the way situation is presently depicting itself, that he would surely get impeached, and the fact that Americans also will be willing not to disturb the status quo in terms of much changes here, that it becomes unstable, no matter who who gets elected as a leader, the South Korea as a political entity or as the state of affairs will remain stable as times should indicate.
All right, a fair point. Dr. Sanjay Kumar, it doesn't really matter whether there is a formidable leader present today or not. The public will find one. I think that's the beauty of democracy, and given that South Korea is the fourth largest democracy in Asia, means that there is some rule of law that will prevail, and people's mandate and decision will really govern as to who takes up the power. But as far as the interim leadership is concerned, by the way of Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, what are the challenges? If let's assuming for a minute that the impeachment process does go through and President Yoon is impeached, what are the immediate challenges for Prime Minister Han Duck-soo?
The immediate challenges would be to bring the opposition again on the table, because opposition is not agreeing with even Han Duck-soo. It is not just about President Yoon, but about his whole government. That is why you can see that there had been many disagreements in the past. I do agree with Lieutenant Roy that as a liberal democracy, the ethos will be restored. Of course, that is true. But the question remains here is that how the opposition and the ruling party is going to conclude the things on the leadership issue. Because the Yoon's leadership is in crisis, but next leadership still it is in kind of doldrum. So that question remains. But we are very hopeful in Korea that definitely the law will take its course, and as the Supreme Court Chief Justice has also said that he is going to review and examine all the constitutional aspects, that has it been followed or not, and based on that any comment on impeachment or to bring new leadership can be made. So we will have to wait a couple of days in order to conclude in a very concrete way.
All right, a couple of days up until Saturday, I believe. That's the day on which the impeachment vote will be taken up in the National Assembly in South Korea. Lieutenant General Roy, last question to you, sir. How might this incident really affect geopolitically South Korea's standing with its Western partners, specifically the US? Because as I mentioned earlier, this has taken everybody by surprise. What are the likely changes you're going to see and you're hoping and projecting geopolitically when it comes to South Korea's relationship with the United States as well as regional partners here in Asia?
I don't think, Shweta, that will get affected much, because they have a very strong credibility. They have been stable for a long time. And the best part, in a democracy is that if you don't trample upon the institutions which exist in the country does not become unstable so quickly, because basically the leadership and the policies decide the overall functioning in the long term. But as far as day-to-day stability of a nation is concerned, it is more to do with the institutions and people's attitude. The way the whole process has taken place now, and within just about a day, the way things have got reversed, it just shows that this nation is very strong institutionally. It is very strong as far as the accountability of the leaders is concerned towards the public, which has chosen them and sent them in the parliament. So I would say that I do not think that this process will affect as far as the status quo, the credibility in the world is concerned with other nations, relationships, etc., including United States.
Right.
But yes, what will the lawmakers now try to do is that make those provisions within the framework of their country, that it becomes more and more difficult for the people to twist and turn the proceedings to stay in power for their own individual ambitions, rather than going by the overall national good. So I think that is what they will try to do, certain those kind of mechanisms within the country. But overall, I don't think that the standing of South Korea in the world and in Southeast Asia otherwise is going to get affected much.
Honestly, if you ask me, Lieutenant General Roy, it's done the opposite. I think with the pictures that are coming up on our screens right now, where people gathered in a matter of hours after that martial law was declared, has done exactly the opposite. In a country with strong institution, it shows that people's mandate cannot be reversed, and it cannot be reversed if you have a powerful politician at the center trying to sweep in and trying to bring about changes which go against the constitutional ethos of a country. I think if for 1 minute, let's put those pictures in full screen for our viewers to see of the night when martial law was declared. People came out in huge numbers. They gathered outside the parliament. They started protesting against what they thought was thwarting of their own rights, their constitutional rights, and the rights that were guaranteed to them by the way of a democratically elected government. And within 6 hours, President Yoon was forced to relook at that emergency, the martial law that was declared on the night of Tuesday. The people's mandate prevailed, and on your screens right now are the people of South Korea who gathered in huge number on a chilling Tuesday night to protest President Yoon's martial law order. With that, I think let me quickly thank Lieutenant General Roy, Dr. Sanjay Kumar. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining in to discuss this very important story coming up from Asia as of this evening. Time now for a short break. We'll be back with more news and stories on the other side. Keep watching News 9.
Jonty Rhodes and Alan Donald, they're kind of the reason why I started playing.
I think most young spinners, when they're growing up, Shane Warne was just everything, wasn't he? He was one of the greats of all time.
Playing against India was always challenging in India.
We're not allowed to bowl a bouncer, so that tells you that they want to see runs on the board. Clean ball.
It's totally different era you in and we are in.
This and more. Streaming on News 9 Plus. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Heartfelt appreciation to News 9 and TV9 network for organizing Global Summit.
I like to thank TV9 for presenting here a wonderful fusion of politics, industry.
जर्मनी और गुजरात के बीच इस मजबूत संबंध सेतु को न्यूज़ 9 ग्लोबल समिट का आयोजन और भी मजबूत बनाएगा। इस विश्वास के साथ आप सभी को एक बार फिर बहुत शुभकामनाएं।
I thank TV9 and the government of Germany for organizing this wonderful conference, and I wish you all the very best.
Welcome back. You're watching Global Lens. US President-elect Donald Trump is considering dropping his nominee to lead the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth, and nominating Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in his place, the Wall Street Journal has reported on Tuesday, citing people familiar with the discussions.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is considering dropping Pete Hegseth as his pick to lead the Pentagon and choosing Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in his place. That's according to the Wall Street Journal on Tuesday, citing people familiar with the discussions. Hegseth would need the support of Senate Republicans to win confirmation to the post, but the choice of Hegseth has run into trouble on Capitol Hill over allegations about his personal and professional life. The Journal reported that Trump allies increasingly think Hegseth may not survive further scrutiny. The Trump Transition Office and DeSantis' office did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The Journal reported that DeSantis was on an earlier list of potential defense secretary candidates. He served in the Navy's legal branch, the Judge Advocate General Corps, from 2004 to 2010.
Fight!
Should Hegseth's nomination fall apart, the Journal cited sources saying Trump could still decide not to choose DeSantis and tap someone else for the post instead.
And Russia claims it has seized 2 more settlements in Ukraine over the past 24 hours, while Ukraine said that the situation on frontline remains tense. The Russian Defense Ministry said in a briefing that its forces launched strikes on energy facilities of Ukrainian military-industrial enterprises, military airfield infrastructure and manpower, as well as equipment concentration areas. Russia's air defense system shot down dozens of unmanned aerial vehicles of the Ukrainian Air Force in the past day. In addition, Russian troops continued to strike Ukrainian manpower and equipment in western region of Kursk. On the same day, the General Staff of the Ukraine Armed Forces reported that as of Tuesday afternoon, Ukrainian forces have engaged in over 100 fights with Russian forces, mostly in the axes of Kurakov and Pokrovsk area. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on social media that the overall situation on the front line remains tense. The Russian Navy and aerospace forces launched high-precision sea and air-based missiles in the eastern Mediterranean Sea as a part of a joint military drill in the area. The exercise took place from Sunday to Tuesday. It involved over 1,000 military troops, 10 ships and support vehicles and vessels, as well as 24 aircraft, including the MiG-31I fighters with hypersonic missiles from the Russian Aerospace Forces and Bashan Coastal Missile System. Also on Tuesday, Zelensky chaired a meeting of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief's staff to discuss the national missile program. The Ukrainian president said he had received a report on the testing of a new type of missile and the country is accelerating its production. Meanwhile, NATO members have agreed at a meeting with Ukraine's foreign minister on Tuesday evening that is providing air defense system to protect the country's infrastructure against Russian attacks has to be a priority, Alliance Secretary General Mark Rutte said.
There was a clear agreement on the table last night that to help Ukraine, particularly with its infrastructure, has to be a priority. And I'm confident that allies will follow up in the coming days and weeks in making sure that whatever they can supply to Ukraine will be supplied. We are really following the events in the Republic of Korea and South Korea step by step, and we are very much interested in how this will evolve further. I don't want to comment now because the Koreans are themselves at this moment trying to stabilize the situation. And if necessary, you will hear more from me, but you can be assured that for us that relationship with South Korea is key. Our relationship is ironclad, together with Japan, Australia, New Zealand. That will not change.
And Syrian rebels have seized Aleppo as well as several other areas of the north from forces of President Bashar al-Assad, shifting long frozen front lines in the country's civil war. Who are the rebels and why are they suddenly advancing? This report has the details.
Syrian rebels' capture of Aleppo from President Bashar al-Assad has brought the Syrian civil war back into focus, jolting front lines that were dormant for years. Assad's government has vowed to fight back, and Russia has launched airstrikes in support. H.A. Hellier of the Royal United Services Institute.
I think he will try to crush the rebel advance in whatever way that he can. The question will be whether or not he comes to the conclusion that he won't be able to, hence he's got to engage in some sort of political process.
So who is leading the rebel advance? A group called Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, launched the campaign. Led by Abu Muhammad al-Golani, HTS was formerly called the Nusra Front and was al-Qaeda's official wing in the Syrian war until it broke ties in 2016. It has long been dominant in Idlib, part of the northwest that stayed under rebel control for the past few years. And it's designated a terrorist group by the United States, Russia and Turkey. Another rebel alliance has launched a separate offensive from areas north of Aleppo. They're backed by Turkey and fight under the banner of an armed opposition group called the Syrian National Army. So why has the conflict flared now? Two supporters of the regime, Iran and Russia, are tied up with other conflicts, regionally and in Ukraine. Iran backed Hezbollah in particular, which helped Assad's forces defeat the rebels in the past, suffered major blows in its conflict with Israel over the past few months, now halted by a ceasefire. Speaking in Turkey, the head of Syria's main opposition abroad, Hadi al-Bahra, said the preparations to seize Aleppo began a year ago, but were delayed by the wars between Israel and Hamas in Gaza and Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon.
And they saw it's not good to have it while there is a war in Lebanon. So the moment there were a ceasefire in Lebanon, they found that the opportunity is good for them to start.
Syria is partitioned into zones with foreign troops on the ground, including the United States and Turkey. A deal between Russia and Turkey has stabilised the situation in the northwest since 2020. Turkey, whose troops are in the northwest, has also expressed growing frustration with Assad's failure to reach a deal with the opposition to end the conflict.
And French lawmakers will vote today on a no-confidence motion, which are all set but certain to oust the government, throwing the Eurozone's second biggest economy deeper into a lingering political crisis. Barring a last-minute surprise, the French government of Prime Minister Michel Barnier will be the first to be forced out by a no-confidence vote in more than 60 years at a time when the country is struggling to tame a massive budget deficit. In a TV interview on Tuesday, Barnier said that he still believed his government could survive the vote. And in the final countdown for Paris Notre Dame Cathedral, reopening after more than 5 years of reconstruction work following a massive fire that heavily damaged its roof and led its spire to crumble. On 15th of April, 2019, a major fire broke out in Paris landmark. The flames ravished the monument's roof structure and then spread, destroying the spire, the nave and transept roofs, as well as their wooden frameworks. The scaffolding that has surrounded much of cathedral's facade has been mostly removed, and a new spire is standing tall as the French capital will officially reopen on the weekend of 7th of December. Some 500 workers have been present on the site every day, racing to rebuild the cathedral, Europe's most visited monument, before fire. The opening ceremony, to which celebrities and heads of states have been invited, is planned for the evening of 7th of December, followed by days of special masses to celebrate the reopening and to thank those who helped save and rebuild the cathedral. And clashes on Tbilisi streets continue for the 6th consecutive night of pro-EU protests. The protesters used laser beams as well as fireworks against riot police, who countered with water cannons and tear gas. Now, protesters accused police of inflicting torture on people arrested during 6 days of big street protest against government's decision to suspend talks on joining the European Union. The United States has previously condemned the use of excessive force against protesters. But Georgian Prime Minister has repeatedly praised the police for their response, saying that they have shown greater professionalism than their counterparts in Europe as well as the US. The country of 3.7 million people has been gripped by crisis when Georgian Dream announced it said was halting the EU talks and renouncing any funding from the bloc until 2028. And the Philippine Coast Guard has released video footage showing what it describes as an aggressive action by Chinese Navy and Coast Guard's vessel during a routine patrol. The incident occurred near the disputed Scarborough Shoal, the South China Sea, on 4th of December. According to Philippines, a Chinese Coast Guard ship fired a water cannon at a Philippine vessel targeting its navigational antennas. Now, Philippine vessels were also subjected to blocking, shadowing and dangerous maneuvers by Chinese Navy and Coast Guard ships. Tensions between China and Philippines over the South China Sea, particularly around the resource-rich Scarborough Shoal, have intensified this year. The area is a critical fishing zone and a focal point of maritime disputes. Now, China asserts sovereignty over nearly the entire South China Sea, a region vital for over $3 trillion in annual shipborne trade. It claims overlap with those of several Southeast Asian nations, including Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, as well as the Vietnam.
Starboard side. Sir, malapit na sila, sir. Collision, sir. Starboard side. Starboard side, sir. Collision.
And King Charles expressed gratitude to Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani for his nation's relentless mediation efforts in the Gaza ceasefire as well as hostage release deal. The Emir described the UK and Qatar as not only friends but partners, emphasizing their collaboration in diplomacy, cultural exchange and economic investment. He also commended Charles for his commitment to interfaith dialogue, peace efforts and environmental protection. The visit comes as Britain seeks to bolster its ties with resource-rich Gulf state. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, elected in July on a platform of economic growth, aims to attract Qatari investment for infrastructure as well as energy projects. Now, during his address in Westminster, Sheikh Tamim highlighted the shared goal of promoting peace and prosperity between the two nations. His visit underscores the deepening partnership between Qatar and the UK.
Last year, we negotiated the release of 109 hostages in exchange for 250 Palestinian prisoners. But despite these early successes, more needs to be done on both conflicts. The Gaza Strip especially has been subject to near total destruction. All the tragic images that we see on a daily basis does not do it justice. The bombing of schools, hospitals, churches, and mosques, and other civilian infrastructure, and weaponizing access to food and medicine has left tens of thousands of innocent women and children injured, starving, or dead, and countless more traumatized for life. We must soften our hearts and hear again the cry of those suffering. Just as your Jane Austen famously wrote, there is no charm equal to tenderness of heart. Both Qatar and the UK believe that the conflict will not end until a sovereign Palestinian state is established. Only through such a two-state solution will true peace and ultimate prosperity be achieved.
Shifting focus now, human tissue samples from Oxford Space Innovation Lab are currently aboard the International Space Station as a part of a groundbreaking experiment to uncover why the aging process accelerates in space. The study aims to leverage microgravity to observe aging in a controlled environment, comparing identical cell samples on Earth and in orbit. The miniaturized, simplified versions of organs known as organoids are housed in a compact, self-contained laboratory cube that connects directly to International Space Station. Now, this system provides real-time data and remote control capabilities, allowing researchers at Oxford to monitor the experiment without astronaut intervention. Decades of space exploration have shown that microgravity can reduce bone density and weaken the immune system.
So this is a very new project where we work between, actually the frontier between the space and biology. And the aim of the project is to study the process of aging under microgravity, where we send a human sample We call them organoid. They are very small cells, mimic the organoid. These samples will be sent to the International Space Station, and some of these samples will be stay in Earth, and we will be able, by comparing and analyzing the data coming from these two different organoid in the International Space Station and also on Earth, to be able to study the process of aging and the impact of the microgravity and the space in general on the aging process.
And the race to introduce humanoid robots into daily life is now heating up, with major players like Tesla competing to launch the first viable android for household use. One contender is Neo, a humanoid robot developed by Norway-based company 1X, operating in Silicon Valley. Neo aims to transform home life by tackling chores like laundry, cleaning and tidying. Artificial intelligence drives every aspect of Neo, from its ability to walk and manipulate objects to its communication as well as body language. A unique feature of Neo is its teleoperability, allowing users to control the robot even remotely from across the globe. This opens the doors to novel interactions, including remote social visits through robot avatars. Neo is set to hit the market in 2025, combining AI with remote control capabilities. While pricing remains undisclosed, it is expected to be comparable to a mid-priced car.
We're starting with the simple things. Now, nothing simple in robotics, but the laundry, tidying, general cleaning, and everyday kind of household tasks, right? And in addition, it's going to be a great companion. You can talk to it, have good conversations, it can teach you things, it can be entertainment.
However, the competition is furious. Tesla's Elon Musk predicts the production of at least 10 billion humanoid robots priced between $20,000 to $25,000 by 2040. Musk believes his Optimus Tesla bot could become the most significant product of all time. Startups and global tech leaders are also pushing boundaries. The International Conference on Humanoid Robotics in Nancy, France, recently showcased over 30 humanoid robots, underscoring rapid innovation in the sector. As AI and robotics merge, humanoids and robots are evolving into versatile machines capable of transforming human lives. Whether assisting with household tasks or serving as companions, the countdown to welcoming these robots into our homes has now begun. And Amazon announced a new slate of artificial intelligence platforms known as foundation models at its annual AWS conference, allowing for text, image and video generation, among other things.
Amazon has unveiled a slate of new AI models. Dubbed Nova, they'll handle work like text, image and video generation. Amazon says that could have direct benefits for sellers on its website. They could use it to, for example, turn still images into short videos for promoting products. Chief Executive Andy Jassy said the new models are a response to customer demands for AI that performs better and costs less. He revealed the move at a conference in Las Vegas on Tuesday. It pits Amazon against rivals like Adobe and Facebook parent Meta. They're all racing to serve customers who want to automate more of their services. Jassy also said the firm would soon release a version of its Alexa voice assistant enhanced with AI.
Alexa, please turn on all lights.
Reuters has reported that the project has been plagued by delays amid concern over the accuracy and speed of the bot's answers. Amazon has been criticized for lagging rivals in the race to exploit the new technology. However, the company's head of artificial general intelligence, Rohit Prasad, said Tuesday that it was still very early in the AI era. He says that gives Amazon plenty of time to catch up and take the lead.
And one of Europe's most biodiverse coastal wetland reserve has been inundated with tons of plastic waste, wrecked cars and pharmaceutical products by the flash floods that ravaged southeastern Spain last month. The Albufera Lagoon, just south of Valencia, is now awash with refrigerators, petrol cans, footballs and other wreckage. The region is home to at least 372 species of birds as well as endangered freshwater fish such as the Valencia tooth crab. Now 52,000 acres of Albufera Natural Park consist of rice paddies that provide the basis of Valencia's famous paella dish as well as 17% of all of Spain's rice, and parts of it are now contaminated with practically undiluted sewage flowing in from inoperative treatment plants as well as damaged sewers. Valencia City Hall says restoration will cost at least $10 million. Its reports said that the unprecedented floods had raised the lagoon by 3 feet. The 120 million litres that gushed in were equivalent to 50 to 70% of the water that normally enters the system in a year.
We are now facing the pollution problem with the water that is coming in from dysfunctional sewage treatment plants, from broken water collectors and sewage that is coming in. The volume is not massive, but a little diluted, so we are noticing the pollution issues now as well.
Water went into the warehouses up to 2 meters and soaked the rice, so that's unusable. Neither for animal food or nothing. Besides, it's germinating with a sour smell, so we need to take out the top layer, which is still fine, and take all the wet part, so that's all losses.
We are totally paralyzed. The entire fish market is paralyzed. We have done a follow for all the fish market workers, and fishermen can't go out fishing. We are forbidden to sail in La Albufera because they are still looking for missing people, and we don't know how long this is going to take. Let's hope they find them and that it doesn't take much longer for us to resume our fishing.
And that's all we have on the show. Thank you very much for watching.